So, we wanted to talk about schooling and autism and what would be the best fit for each individual and how things have played out versus um not versus, but like public school versus homeschool or private schooling, since we've had experience with all of those. And I just wanted to talk to you about your experience because your kids are older and you had a really good story and unfortunately have to re-record everything. Um,
Yeah, but
Sorry. That's
hey,
totally
it's
my
okay.
bad right here.
I'm gonna take one pause real quick and grab my water and grab my tissue. The audience is probably gonna see me. I'm a very emotional mama when it comes to telling my story with this, but just 1 second.
I wish I wasn't like dead inside, friends. I'm kidding. I'm not dead inside, but mm, sometimes my emotions just aren't. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it other than there's times where I would love to be more emotional and I can't. Like I feel like locked.
Yeah.
And it- and then when I'm by myself, like I hate like if you see me crying, like I'm upset. And if you see me shedding a tear, like it went down, something bad happened. Like I'm upset. Or, I think I cried at like my son's like kindergarten graduation because I was just so proud of him. I had never, I remember they were performing a song and I was just, tears just streaming down my face because I'd never seen this child like sing or move or anything. And I was like, who is this kid? Like, thank God. Anyway, so let's get started talking about your experience with schooling and um how old your son was when you actually got an IEP and you actually got a diagnosis. My son was 3 when I got the ball rolling, and so we've had wildly different experiences there. So I just don't have a frame of reference for somebody going through like a later situation.
hmm So he was actually a preteen, so it was really not that long ago. And I say that because it actually took a few years to really get the official diagnosis because at first they just thought it was attention deficit disorder, ADHD, but then I kept pushing. I think that there's more. So we can kind of go back to the beginning of his early years. So, you never really want to like compare your kiddos, right? But I have a daughter that's a few years older than my son. And that kiddo, she started literally saying her first word at 5 months. She could speak full,
Wow.
yeah, she could speak full sentences at 11 months. And then she could have a full-on conversation at 2, like it was
Wow.
nothing. So
My girl had some things to say.
she did. So that me and the pediatrician, I'm just bouncing stuff. Okay, well, my son is, 3, 3.5. What's going on? Oh, but we can't, boys develop differently. You can't compare. It's like I understand that.
I
But
hate that.
and I always go back to, hey, I'm the mama. I was a stay-at-home mom. Right? I am with this kiddo, 80 to 90% of his life. So I think I know what I'm talking about. You see him for what, 15 minutes, and you're telling me I'm wrong. And hey, I know I'm not a professional, but that's when I started like looking into things, and I knew we kind of had a family history of out of it wasn't really a diagnosis, but like kind of the hyperactivity and things like that. I just didn't feel like he was ready to go to preschool. We did enroll him when he was 4, but I just tried to do things at home with him because he really just everything seemed to be a struggle for him if it was something that he didn't want to do. And he would have this high-pitched scream that was it would register in your ears, and people were literally to have to cover their ears. And I try to address this with the doctor, like he wasn't going to do that sound in front of him. But the people that were closest to us, they knew what he was capable of with that scream.
Can I interject something that I got a piece of advice from my old caseworker when I lived in the same city as you? And, I've gotten some pushback from people, just random mothers on the internet. I've seen some horrible things written, by the way, about people, the way they treat their own children. But um, sh my advice from her was to make sure your child's in a bad mood that day. Like don't give them the comfort items. Don't give them anything, make sure that basically they're putting not a fake show, but show what's going on.
Reality.
Like you
Yeah.
have to present them like at their worst because basically people are like, "Oh, they looked fine to me. They did this, this, and this, no problem."
Mhm.
Same with my son. Like he's a perfect little baby angel, and I've had to start recording meltdowns just so I have basically evidence to back up my IEP meetings, any other, supplemental things that go on with the county and any other programs that may or may not be offered. Um, Sometimes those things they're unfortunate. It breaks your heart, but it's necessary. And again, we're talking a decade ago for you when this was happening. Did you have the capability to do that? Probably not. So I'm sorry. I'll let you continue.
No, 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 no. Thank you for, I mean, that is definitely great advice. Uh, so kind of piggybacking on that is the fact that my kiddos learn to mask at such
Yeah.
a young age because people around them like, well, what's your problem? You don't need, they thought it was a behavioral
Right.
issue and not a neurological thing that he had going on. Uh, so it became to the point where, I mean, I understand it, where I really didn't have any help because I would have one kid or the other because others couldn't handle both the kiddos. So
Yes.
it's either I'll have one or the other, or you just take your son, I'll take your daughter, which
Right.
I see it
It
both
doesn't
ways.
the village. It's not
Right,
helpful.
right. Exactly. So even if I wanted to go back to work, I really couldn't because this was a full trying to manage their emotions and try to regulate them was it truly was a full-time job. And even when my son could only handle at 4 going to preschool 2 mornings a week,
Mm.
for 4 hours. And even then, um, they would have to call me and I'd have to, so even if I wanted to, have hours outside the home doing some type of work, even part-time, I don't know how that would have panned out. I think they'd be, I think they had my number on speed dial even back then. It was programmed. So I was like, oh, yep, the school again. Uh, but I just knew this kiddo had an intelligence that was far beyond his years, that it was hard to kind of pull out of him. And I saw those glimmers, I saw what he was capable of, but having others see that beyond his behavior, because he would uh he picked and choose when he wanted to participate in things. He kind of wanted to be, well, they either like pushed him into the back of the class, not physically, but kind of put him to the side because he was being disruptive, or he wasn't staying on track and focused. But there was just a lot of delays, which I kept trying to present. He really couldn't hold a pencil or a crayon very well, write or color or draw inside the lines. He couldn't use scissors very well. And then when he was able to, write his name out, it was just, in their words, very sloppy, very juvenile, even he struggles with a lot of that even to this day. So it's easier for him to type on the computer. But when he would get his little evaluations back, even in preschool, it was, well, you guys need to work with him at home. Yes, we do
We
that.
do.
We do. So when it came time to potentially go to TK, we just realized he really wasn't ready. And then I tried to search for other programs that could be beneficial, where we weren't having to pay for preschool. And I just knew I will take it upon myself to kind of do preschool at home. And we needed something where he could be social and, learn more information. So we found a homeschool group that met one time a week. And he was able to have that socialization. They had like playtime after the group learning activities. And it was like learning through play and song. And this kiddo, he really did. He wasn't making eye contact. He may had been in the corner playing with the little action figures, or um, it was neat though that there was other mamas in this group that were teachers, and they realized that, okay, well, we can be outside and be like, hey, let's do our memory work, and let's, do the water cycle or the states of matter, and we'll list it off, and then we'll run to the next tree, or we'll do 5 jumping jacks. So that was really beneficial to these other kiddos too. And there was like a wide spectrum of understanding for those 4 and 5 year olds. And I saw those kiddos blossom. And yeah, my kiddo, when they did a little performance at the end of that year, he was able to recite full like passages of scripture via song. He knew all the presidents, the states and capitals, the books of the Bible. I mean,
Wow.
I could go on, yeah, the states of matter, water cycle, classical music composers. It was amazing, the scale of the notes, and yeah.
Wow.
So I knew that maybe you can write things down, or the sight words and things like that, where versus my daughter, who could, I can't even remember when she learned to read, because it was just, she kind of went from, how they memorize the book, but they're reading the little board books, to just, she just could read by the time she was in TK. So that was always like a concern in the back of my mind, but I just always knew there's that spark. And then with him, it's always like peeling that onion back, trying to find ways where I could engage him, but still educate him. So then moving forward on to like schooling years, when we had to decide to put him in kindergarten, we're like, okay, so then he was a year older. So he was on the older side, which that helped with his maturity level, maturity, right? I mean, all these standardized terms that the school uses and whatnot. So he went to kindergarten, a traditional public school kindergarten, and it was unfortunate that he got kind of a curmudgeon teacher that she really shouldn't have been teaching. She had been retired for a few years and then came back and thought that kindergarten would be the easiest bet. She thought she could kind of coast through and, you know, that's really not the case, right? Kindergarten, there's so many fundamental things that you learn in your first 5 years,
Yep.
right?
Yep. It's the most formative time. It's the most important time to have somebody so coasting through life. That's not a good fit. It's not a good fit.
Right. So me and this lady, we definitely butted heads. And I just made my presence known. Once again, I was on speed dial. So uh, little man was having his issues, right? Where he didn't want to participate or he wanted to do things his way, or he just gets so immersed into, Play-Doh time or whatever they were doing that those transitions, right, triggered him. And so and then others, right, kind of the bullying situation, and they just kind of had to remove him and put him in the back of the class. He was constantly, getting demerits and marks that, oh, behavior this or not incomplete work this, losing at really kindergarten, you're losing recess because you're not.
Ooh.
So
You make me want to Hulk out with what you've been through. Ugh. No,
yeah,
I mean removing physical activity from any young child is they don't understand. And if
and that's
anything, you're like adding more to it because now
right.
they're not even burning that off. And
There you go.
transitions, even simple transitions for any young kid, even if you don't suspect any kind of autism or ADHD, anything, just a quick little 5-minute warning. Hey, wrap it up. Hey, do that, go down that slide 3 more times, and then we have to go. Whatever it may be, whatever, little warning you have to set or say, okay, this is how it has to go down. It makes a huge difference. A huge difference.
Yeah. And to this day, this kiddo must, for a minimum of an hour, go move his body. Like we literally have a home gym or we have a park nearby, and he has to get his steps in, his hour in, where he's just going like full throttle for 60 full minutes doing whatever physical activity. And it literally like it's like medicine for his body because it expels all that pent up energy. Because yeah, my goodness. So I was trying to tell them that. I was like, this kiddo has to move his body. So thank goodness the his school at the time had a public playground right next to it. And so like every day if that was taken away from him, then I was like, okay, we're going to the park and we're playing and having fun. So they would always tell me, oh, back to the parents. Everything gets put on the parent. Well, you need to be better at discipline. You're not a good disciplinarian. This, that, and the other.
He doesn't act like
Okay.
that for me. He's acting like that for you.
Right. Oh, yeah. I mean, it wasn't that he was an angel at home, but I
No
knew
kiddos.
before I even knew what regulating somebody was, I was regulating him. Uh, so he stayed at this school for a few years. Uh, and I would kind of like air my grievances to my grandma. So at that time, I was just solely kind of like housekeeping for her and like doing like major, if she, had to go to a super important doctor's appointment or things like that, that took a lot out of her. I was helping her with. Uh, but she would be there in the trenches with me. She'd hear the school call. I would kind of drop everything and have to go, and then she'd see me, trying to hold it together and everything. But she was my rock. So finally, she kind of came to me and told me, you know what? I had an appointment, and mind you, this woman was a borderline. She should not have been driving. This was probably one of her last like adventures of driving by herself. She went down to one of our private schools locally, and she had a consultation with the principal and kind of like explained to them what was going on. And she kind of propositioned my husband and I and said, "Hey, I'm gonna need more help here. So if you want to come work for me and, keep the house and like help cook meals and do things like basically being kind of a caregiver for her, in exchange, she would be paying for my kiddos to go to private school." So we were like, okay, I think that would be a good option. And we,
That would have been a wonderful opportunity for the IHSS program, by the way. I mean, like, there's a whole caregiver structure that people are not familiar with. But go ahead. I'm sorry. But
no,
man, what a wonderful lady for her to offer such a gift.
right. Because of, so I'll back up just a little bit. So yeah, being at the public school, it I really did try to even get him a 504 plan. I had to go and look. So once again, this is when I had to start looking into things myself. Uh, but then in the back of my head, I'm having all these professionals tell me, oh, he's just defiant. He's this, that, or that. No, it's not the there's no learning disabilities. They kept using that because they didn't want to put the extra work in to help him.
Now, let me ask you one quick follow-up to that because you have a 504 experience. I've only had an IEP. So, from what I thought I understood that a private school does not have to honor a 504 or an IEP. Is that correct?
Well, we kind of like tabled the 504. I've like tried to file with the school, the public school, and then that kind of just was a wash because then we ended up transitioning them the next year over to private school. But they tried to tell me, I think they thought that I was Hispanic. We have a big Hispanic
Yeah, yeah.
population here. And then they saw my last name, and they thought, oh, you're married to,
A
a
gringo
Caucasian
baby.
guy.
Mhm.
So they literally verbatim told me, and then, my kiddos are lighter skin. They literally told me, well, you're taking away free funding to do these testing from kiddos that need it, that are underprivileged. So you need to go through your privatized insurance and pay for whatever diagnosis you think your kiddo may have. But that's not what I'm like, I'm reading, and you like serve them kind of, and they have that was 90 days. But then this was too late within the year and would have pushed it into summer. But then it was supposed to pick back up the next year. But that's when grandma was like, okay, let's do this private school thing. So I let the private school, I like laid it all out for them. And technically, we didn't do the 504 plan because I let them know that I had I was diagnosed as a kiddo with dyslexia. So I was like, I think my son most likely has that. And I think he does have ADHD, but I kind of let them know that the other school wasn't helping us. The pediatrician wasn't helping us either. Um, I tried to even talk, yeah, to our pediatrician about that. He referred me to somebody else in their practice to do like a little evaluation. So it was like I was getting ping ponged
Mm.
back and forth because, right, once again, when he would come to me or come with me, my son, to these appointments, he'd sit there, like a little angel. And he was kind of like
And he
afraid
is.
at that point of authority figures because he would get yelled at and isolated. And so he kind of had a fear. So he knew to be good, smile, nod. And so he had that mask. And they were like, "What are you talking about? This kid
Oh,
is
I
phenomenal. His
know.
behavior is phenomenal." So then I look like a liar, right? Or I look like I'm fibbing or, whatever you want to call it.
And to
Whatever.
what end? It's like it's this isn't for me.
Right.
It's almost like they feel like you want some label for you. It's like it's not for me, friend. It's to
Right. Like
get
I'm
my
seeking
child the
attention.
help they need.
Right.
It doesn't benefit me to ostracize them or to label them else, other than a typical child. Like, why would I want to put them through that?
Exactly. And
What kind of
verbatim.
weirdo Munchausen by proxy
Thank you.
insanity do you think I'm living that I would want my child to feel the pain of what they go through?
And I've had people tell me, why would you want this label for your beauty?
I
And they
don't.
try to use because let's let's not get it twisted. Autism does not have a physical feature or,
Nope.
there's a wide spectrum. Anybody can have it, right? So it doesn't matter what you look like. And my son is just conventionally attractive, right? And I've had like
I,
people,
you know, he does look like Justin Bieber. He is a little cutie. He is a little handsome guy, I gotta say. I've always was like, I I almost said his name. He's so handsome. He's such a
yeah,
little cutie. He really is.
thank you.
He is. I mean, I have to second that emotion. That kid is cute.
And he knows it. And see, he knows how to use his little tactics to like, oh, I'm just gonna use. So, I'm just sitting there like flabbergasted that these professional people would use race, my, Middle Eastern Italian descent against me, and then use the physical appearance of my child to say, oh, he couldn't be. Why would you want this label for him? He is verbatim. He's
Handsome.
too cute
That's absurd.
to be on the spectrum. So why would you want that for him?
I don't. I want him to flourish
I
and have
want
the same opportunities everybody else does.
exactly. It's just I just want those little training wheels for him so he can excel, move forward, and take off.
Sorry, you'll have to look at him more than one time and just not walk right past him. And you have to be like, hey, are you okay today? Hey, do
Right?
you need help? Oh, and no offense, I love educators. I am a defender of the teaching profession. Like those people are 99% of them are miraculous. And unfortunately, just like police officers, there's that 1% that just give a lot of people bad name. And I've run into a few of them.
Yeah, and now I think it's become more prevalent now that people know what autism is and seeing things on the news. I know that wasn't in our recording, but how peeved we have been. And if we stay silent about these things and don't talk about what we've experienced as these mama bears down in the trenches, we've we become these people through our experiences in life that I just get so
I
emotional.
know it's hard. It's hard
This
when
is not
you
me.
fought a battle and then it's almost like I don't ever want to see another parent go through what I've gone through. And
No,
if this only ever reaches, who knows? I hope it reaches any autism parent, anybody that, parent, caregiver, whoever. If autism has touched your life, like we're here, we're your friends. Leave us, seriously, leave us a message. Just tell us what you need. Like we will do whatever we can to help because we've been through it. And fortunately, through, just sheer luck, did I meet you and a group of other autism mothers through a friend of mine who just by circumstance and chance did we meet. But I'm so forever grateful for that group of women. And there was a father involved as well, so I shouldn't just say women, but um, for that group of people because I learned so much, and I learned that though I have an appreciation for the education system, that they are almost incentivized not to do anything more than the barest minimum. And so if you have an IEP and there's something in there that you need spelled out, I don't care if you need somebody to escort your child to the bathroom. Me. That's an issue with my child. He has toileting issues. He will hold it. He will have accidents. There's a whole other stream of stream. Uh, there's a whole other thing going on there with him. And, at one point, I had to implement this where there's a man who works for the school. He's the speech therapist, and he actually will escort my son to the restroom because he'll tell you he's afraid to use the bathroom. I think the toilet flushes too loud. That's my opinion, that he's afraid of the loud sound. You even have to add things in like, hearing protection.
right?
I have it to where, if he wants to wear hearing protection throughout the day, he's able to do that. If he needs push in or pull out time, you have to be very specific about those things. And they
Yes.
will not offer any kind of hey, this may be helpful to you, unless you get that rare teacher who gets it and wants to see your child succeed. Eh, That came out incorrect, but I said what I said. Um,
Right.
they're the above and beyond person, let's say. Um, that's how we ended up in the situation we're in. But we're talking about your son, and I just wanted to interject that IEP, uh, how important that is. And I know you brought up the news story and teachers being abusive to children, and that's something that it just it immediately puts me to a level 10, just anger. And there are other people closer to us that have had similar issues and situations, and they're not allowed to talk about it currently. And if and when they ever are, not in this format, but um, yeah, it's heartbreaking. It's devastating to have, a friend call you and let you know that, hey, there was an abuse situation involving my child, and that friend is far more graceful and gracious than I am. I I immediately in my mind chose violence, and I was like, God help the person that does anything. Like, please put some money on my books because that's where I'm going to be, smiling in my mugshot. If you see Jen on the news like this, I beat somebody's ass, I, and I don't care, and I don't care. I would do it. I horrific. not just teachers though. There's parents who they're so frustrated. And believe me, I understand the frustration. And there's nothing worse than publicly on some of these groups that you have on social media. There was actually a woman that I read her comment and it horrified me so badly. I screenshotted this. I don't know why I don't know her. Um, she was talking about being so frustrated with her child that she said something to the effect of they were in a store and he would scream and she would put her hand over this kid's mouth. And I was like, what are you doing? But also, why would you feel so confident to put that in writing? It, and look, I'm not a perfect mother, but I've never assaulted my child.
Right?
It, it's like if you feel that deeply, walk away, walk
Put
outside.
yourself in timeout.
Yes, put yourself in timeout. Honey, I don't care if you gotta go sit in the car, if you don't even smoke, if you gotta pretend. Take a deep breath in and blow it out. If you have to go scream in a pillow, something, do anything, but to put your child in that situation is awful because you are their protector. Who are they supposed to go to if they're having and this lady was definitely very specific that her child was definitely autistic and on the spectrum. And I just thought, man, I- not that I wish I knew her or I just commented to her like something to the effect of like I'm sending you like my love. Like that's all I can say. Like I can't be like delete this. You should delete this whole comment. Like you don't want that publicly. I don't know. I don't know how people have the confidence to just talk about outwardly abusing a special need child, let alone their own child, and teachers to be in those positions where they've gone through the formal education. They're specifically special needs teachers, and for them to have teachers' aides there and other adult witnesses and still feel confident enough to do something to your child? It's like, no. I'll see you in the parking lot.
Hmm.
You,
Even when cameras are rolling,
I don't care. I'll be
they
like,
don't
I'll
care.
be mid beat down and I'll look up at the camera and
Yeah.
Andrea, I'm telling you, I'm being as serious as I could possibly be. Like, if you ever see me smiling, just to let everybody know, hey, throw some money
We'll
on
get you the
Jen's
best
book.
lawyer there is.
Eh, obviously this is filmed and I'm going to publish this and they'll be like, remember that time she filmed a video and she said she was going to beat the shit out of somebody? Sure did. I'll have to plead guilty. I'll have to not have a trial.
Well, honestly, sometimes, yeah, we do in so many ways. We have to, as autism advocates, like take matters into our own hands because we're there, like I said, down in the trenches, in the front lines. We see the whole spectrum of things, and we're the only ones to truly get it done. And this is not to like bash dads or other caregivers. So,
No, in
yeah,
in the instances of a single parent homes or caregivers that are not the mother or father or I don't want to be exclusionary, so
right,
I want to include everybody in this, but I'm just making a broad general statement. Typically, your kids, you you're their mother. They
right.
look to you first, and you can't be your child's first bully. You can't.
Yeah,
And if you are, please reconsider what you're doing. Take that moment to take a breath and tomorrow's a new day. You can always start fresh. You don't have to beat yourself up. There are programs out there, and if there's not a program in your area, there's resources of human beings. Again, leave us a if you have
Right.
literally
Reach
no
out.
one,
Exactly.
message
Be
me.
your community, truly. It's better to vent to an adult than have something long lasting on a child. That's the other thing, like can kind of segue back into what we were talking about before, is that kiddos with autism having trauma put upon them is they take it into like the cellular level and they experience it on levels that an atypical person or neurotypical, I should say, sorry, uh, person could, you know, process that a lot quicker and have a like a deeper understanding why that would happen. But it really devastates the kiddo with autism and they really don't know how to handle it and they can regress, unfortunately.
And my own personal experience, I've never been formally diagnosed, but I definitely, once I had a child with autism, I saw so many characteristics of myself, especially the rumination of events. And I mean, there are things and issues a long time ago, stupid things you do as a kid that I beat myself up for
Yeah.
a long time. I mean, like, and I didn't understand that there was a whole different thought process going on in my brain. I just
There we
thought
go. Yeah.
everybody's brain was like running on, 100% all the time and just I
Yeah.
didn't know that sometimes your brain could just go quiet. Had no idea. Didn't
Nor
know.
did I. Nor did I. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely sometimes it's a self-inflicted trauma that you can't stop. You
Right.
don't know the function to stop that other than for me, I had to just literally I think you sent this to me where you were like, "Hey, my brain's name is Barbara. Hey Barbara, cut it out. I don't have time for this today."
Right.
And it's
Exactly.
effective.
Right. So if kind of the tactic behind it is if you name your brain and then it kind of distances, becomes like an entity, right? And then you can distance yourself from that negative thought process and be like, hey, you know what? We'll table this or, we don't have time for this. We'll revisit it later. And I've used that even for my kids, like, okay, hey, we are we don't have to go down this path that our brain wants us to. We don't, and I use this all the time. We're not going to let this rob our joy today.
That's beautiful. I love that.
So deep breaths. And I tell my kids, breathe, stretch, and then we're going to shake, and then we're just going to let that go. And then we'll just like breathe, stretch, shake, let it go. And then we try to yeah, we're like, okay, this is the transition. And then even though if we have something looming, but we unfortunately we're gonna have to move on. So we're just gonna have to table that and then we can come back to it later.
That's
Sometimes it works,
that's really
sometimes it
good
doesn't.
advice. My son especially, he will have, when
Uh,
the whole body just and
right.
I'll just tell him, "Hey, let it out." Let it out. And again, he'll do a whole thing. But I have a typical child and she is younger, but there are times where she acts out in the same manner. And, I've gotten the advice that it's monkey see, monkey do behavior versus, I mean, she's definitely, we've had this conversation of what we call it level one. Like she's
Mhm.
got a little something going on, but I've never been able to get anybody to listen to me, even though I already have a child on the spectrum. I mean, and that same pediatrician who was so helpful with my son is like, "Hmm, no, no issue, can't even do a referral." And I'm like, okay, I don't want to see this girl struggle. but she is able to communicate. She has a lot of friends. She's very bright. She's in TK. I feel like as far as milestones go, she's doing amazing.
Right.
But, she just has a little bit of an emotional side going on. And that could be because she's 5. I don't
Right.
know.
Right. We, like we said, we're not professionals. We
No.
don't. So, yeah. And that's a whole nother rabbit hole going down is girl versus boy diagnosis. Oh my, and then women, right? I think we're the least diagnosed of everybody. So, all that to say is, yeah, I mean, it is a spectrum. And just because you know one person with autism doesn't mean you know everybody with
No,
autism
you know one person with autism. You
because it
know the one.
presents, excuse me, in a whole facet of different ways. And we've talked about this before, how there's 3 official levels, but I think there should be more, like 5 or more, because, and my daughter beautifully put it. She goes, so it's kind of like a Venn diagram, right? So there's like overlaps.
Yes.
And just because someone could be a level 1 in one area, they could be a level 2 in another area where they would need more help, and then a level 3, because my son speaks perfectly well. You put that kid in a dentist chair, you take him to the salon to get his haircut.
Yeah.
They look at me and they're like, he's a teenager. Why isn't they're like, what's wrong? And then he shuts down, puts his mask goes on. He'll kind of like smile but there's no words that will come out. And he can't handle the smells, sights, sounds, like them, especially getting the haircut. He hates the little hairs falling, uh, the spray, the water. It takes like an hour or so to because of his hair. He has really like fine hair, and it's really really hard to cut his hair. So we've had to try to find people that have been patient with him because they're looking at me like, what is wrong with him?
Our
I'll have to
son,
explain it to you.
right. Well, our son, we were going to like a children's haircutting place, and they were really great with him. Um, but he, again, like the saying you taught me, on his own terms, his own time. Sometimes I'd have to tell him, a week or two in advance of like, hey, next Thursday I want to go get your haircut. And it'd be like, okay. Or it'd be a negotiation. No, I want to go Friday. Okay, we'll go Friday.
Right?
But my husband takes him now, and we found that neck thing they put on. We don't
Right.
do that anymore, and it has made a difference.
Oh, good.
I'm just throwing it out there, because he doesn't like the feeling on his skin, and that actually was leading to more upset than a lot of things. Also, the buzzing around the ears, he can't
Yeah.
tolerate that. So I let them know, like, you're gonna have to scissor cut that. He can't handle it. If you want him to cry and freak out on you, go for it. But I recommend, scissor cutting. There are people out there who offer hair cutting and services specifically for autism. They're hard to come by sometimes, and just
Hmm.
depending on where you live. Um,
Right. That's the hard part.
I mean, I think we knew someone from our, friend group, but I don't think she really comes around. So I hadn't seen that lady around in some time, but I've known of people who do it. I've just never utilized it because where I live now is very isolated area. So we don't have the same kind of, conveniences that I once had. And, so
Yeah.
even to go to like a Great Clips, is an undertaking. But if you map out a plan, um,
Right.
and it just depends on your child, what works. It may be just negotiating the time in the day. It may be, hey, I need to wear a green shirt that day. Okay. Whatever I need to do to get you there to get you to get a haircut. Right now, he's letting us kind of like buzz his hair off quarterly, and I'm gonna have to be fine with that. I used to get him the cute little haircuts and the little styles, and he has no tolerance for it. So, like I said, quarterly, if I can get his hair shaved all the way down, I'm happy with that.
Yeah,
It's difficult.
exactly. For our viewers, if they don't have the experience with autism, every little thing, like we're saying, we have to plan out. So when we're talking about going to get a haircut, right? And our kiddo, our sons, they vibe with time. They have to know how long it takes to get there. Okay, first you have to tell them in advance, like a few weeks in advance.
Yes.
So mine is gonna get a haircut for the first time in literally a year.
Hmm.
So I have to let him know, put it on his calendar. He has to have it on his phone calendar. Then he needs to know how long it's going to last, how long it takes to drive to the place. And that's what we're saying. We're kind of rural and that like we have a bigger city that's about 45 minutes away from me. So I could go and take him to do, but it's that time that he's going to have hair on himself that long, right? So I would have to probably like find a shower for him. There's not going to be a dry, he could not handle having the hair from the haircut for 45 minutes. And to
No.
drive home for that. So all these little things that we have to take into consideration that for a typical person would be like, oh yeah, okay, I have my haircut scheduled. Bing, bada boom, bada bam.
I
We
stopped
get it
off
done.
after work and got a haircut, and
Right, right.
that's not how it goes for that kid, not at all.
No, it becomes literally an event.
Mm.
And it takes so much emotional power, I guess, and willpower to do this. So that becomes like what we do, their school, and then that's what the event for the day because it's
And
like,
then they're so tired, they're wiped out after.
yes,
Nobody tells you about, it it could be just a random event. It could be a fire drill. It could be anything. And then they come home to you and they pass out or the insomnia. That's the other end of it. But that's a whole other
right,
episode, my friends. That's a whole
yes.
other episode.
So how do you want me to continue on with
Go ahead. Go
okay,
ahead,
we
babe.
probably could break this up into two with it. And
If you
and
got the time,
here
sister, so do I.
all right, we got the ADHD, so we're gonna hop all around, but then we make it we circle back and then we get back on track with what we were talking about in the beginning. So with my son's school, so he we got him all situated with the kiddos being in private school. And for the first year, that was going pretty well. And like I was saying, his teacher, she had a background and got her like master's degree, and she knew about dyslexia and learning disabilities. So she could kind of like tailor things to him, and that was what was so great about the private school is they really tried to get the kiddos back on track and up to grade level. uh, this didn't make it into the recording, but I was telling you before that my daughter, she couldn't even really write a paragraph until she was in the upper grades of elementary school because they were just falling through the cracks. She would be in classes that, what's the name for it when there was like two grades in a class?
Hybrid.
There you go, something like that. So she was always, because she was a good kid, a quiet kid, kind of kept to herself, didn't make trouble. she was always put in these like, oh, that's the word for it, combo class. So she was put in these combination classes. And that didn't really, at that time, she really wasn't an independent learner. It wasn't something that benefited her. And she kind of, they wouldn't tell me at the public school a lot of things that were happening behind the scenes. Uh, and these kiddos, with the like the education part of it too, it was just, oh, they were passing, they were doing okay, but no. But it was just so crazy to me that my daughter could read so well. She had, she was reading at probably a seventh, eighth grade reading level in third, fourth grade, right? But then she didn't know like the fundamentals of how to, she could probably like write a sentence, but a paragraph, no. And then the math too was atrocious. She was getting like a little bit of help. From like a yard duty teacher, but she was telling me this woman probably was, fresh out of high school or maybe 19 or 20 years old. And I think she was going to college. I don't even think that she had any type of like degree or whatnot. And but hey, she's like, it was better than nothing. But they weren't telling me. I think they were like fudging things because they just wanted to pass them through. They didn't want to like trigger, oh, maybe they do need a 504 plan, any of that. So they just let them coast through. But back to my son. So I could definitely see improvements, and he was able to kind of like start writing sentences and whatnot. And I felt like he was being more engaged in class because before he would just sit in the back of the class or wherever they would put him during the day, and he could just memorize everybody. So if there's like 30 kids in the class, he remembered each of the kids' number, their full name, what they had for lunch, where
Wow.
they sat in the class, all these things, and to be like the first week of school. Uh, so I knew it was like, wow, he really can remember things, remember them in order, remember colors, time. Like he learned how to like tell time. Basically, like I taught him when he was very, very small to because of the clock on the wall in his classroom. So he was all about, he'd always be tracking time and
Yeah, that's another similarity our sons have, an obsession with clocks and time. I mean,
yes.
I think my son finally has just moved on, but there was about a year and a half period of time where he took over my Alexa, which I was fine with, but um, he would set timers. He'd also have an analog clock. He'd have a few of them actually, a date and time, like the little metal ones that you put on, a desk or whatever. He has that. Yeah, there's definitely an obsession with time, with tracking, with having a very controlled set of hey, even, yesterday he had a bath yesterday evening, and it was the negotiation. Well, what time will you take a bath? 5:55 p.m. Okay. Okay. 5:55, why? I don't know. But sometimes it's 7:13, sometimes it's 8:02. It could be an arbitrary number, but if you want him to take a bath before that time, expect pushback.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And that's what I probably am the one that kind of instilled this time to him because I would tell him like, okay, you have 5 minutes, right? Or you have, and I'd set the old school like the little like a little egg clock, right? That
The egg
I think
timer,
I have.
yeah.
There you go. So he kind of would look at it and be okay. Then you could count the little number. So I was always teaching him. So he kind of knew about fractions, right? Of break down to time. Uh, and so anything that he was interested in, I would always try to expand on that. And the color green, right? I would sage green. You don't like all the different like level like light green, neon green, right? Just anything to expand his vocabulary. So then I asked him what he would see on the playground, anything new. Uh, so anything that would engage him to further his education and expand his vocabulary, I was all about it. Just trying to make those connections with him, uh, and just be his person, right? Uh, so then after that first year of them being in the private school, the second year came around, and then there's kiddos that come in and out of that school, and then there's kiddos that have been there since like TK they even have a preschool. So they've known this like small group of kids have known each other because the school's pretty small. They've known each other most of their life, right? And so the families know each other, and then you just kind of become an outsider if didn't grow up at that school. And then there were kids that would come in and out, and these kiddos would literally have gotten kicked out of public school or any other school settings, and because of their attitudes
Behavior.
and their bad behavior. So the parents have to work, right? So they decide they were going to have to pay and put them in to private school. And they thought it's like that's going to be the fix. And these poor teachers were trying to regulate these kids, and the playground just became a hot mess. My kiddo is definitely like a stickler for the rules. He doesn't want the ball taken from him. He wants everybody to play basketball by the rules. He's very like stickler for that. Uh, and there was a kiddo that would just egg him on, and he held back for the longest time, but he had like fallen, and poor kiddo had, I mean, kids scrape their knees all the time. He had but it was like it was like almost like a wound. It was like very deep, and I was trying to treat it and whatnot, and so he had like a big old band-aid on his knee. uh, and so this kiddo saw that this was a vulnerability, and the kiddo was a year younger than him. This kiddo kicked him in the knee in the open wound, and my son, he lashed out. And this kid was always putting hands on my son all the time. And I told him, I was like, this kid's younger than you. You be the bigger person. You go tell the teacher. So it was documented that he was telling and they would, oh, be the bigger person. You're older than him. That's just how this kid is. You just need to stay away from him. The kid would target him and go after him. This was all during COVID. So they're wearing
Oh,
masks on their face. And why my son would get in trouble so many times because he would pull it down to breathe, because this, like I'm saying, this kiddo needs his time to like run around to get, and it gets warm here, right? And so they're like, why are you running off in the corner? Well, he needed to pull the mask down to be able to breathe. So they're like, that's it. You have you've all this all these things have kind of like accumulated, and you've been so horrible to this kid that's younger than you, and we heard you say the F word, and like
yeah, if
you're
somebody
basically
kicked me
cussing.
in an open wound, I'd probably swear too.
Right, we heard you say, so they were more concerned.
Oh, sorry that I was assaulted
Sorry, I'm
and
just
did
like my
nothing, and
words
then
are getting
you victim shamed me.
right. My words are all getting all jumbled because I just get so stinking ticked off. And they were, they're like, well, we're going to suspend your kiddo and everything for 3 days. I go, and then what are you going to do with this other kid? And then it was the whole thing. He's younger. That's just this, that, this kid has like, he's had a hard home life and he's had this. And so we need to embrace it. We need to be praying for him. We need to, da, da, da. And your kid can't handle um, this kid without lashing out. So we've tried to give him so many chances. So he's going to be suspended.
No.
Ooh, no, 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 no. And when I go to pick him up, my kiddo is sitting in like a dark room off to like the side, like by himself.
Andrea. Mm-mm, girl. Out of mm-mm. Oh, honey.
So I point at the principal. I'm like, let's get in your office. I like go and check on my, like, is everything okay? I bring him out of the office. I'm telling, oh, because it's during COVID, right? And they're trying to, so because he refused to wear the mask, he had to be isolated in that room, dark room by himself, which I mean, there was a window. It wasn't like complete, but still, it's like starting your punishment right
Oh,
now.
hell to the no.
So I was like, oh,
No.
and then when I'm like texting my husband meanwhile, right? And I tell him what's going on. And he's like, you just pull them both. This is ridiculous. So the principal just going and all the things that I was saying before, and we're gonna suspend him for the 3 days. And I was like, well, I guess we're suspending them for the long haul. We're done here. Because it was, it's pricey to go to that school and they're losing two kids. It was suddenly they're trying to, oh, well, what can we do? What can we, oh, and
You
then
could
we can
kiss
have
my
a
whole
conversation.
ass.
And I
That's
was
what
like,
you could
oh, no,
do.
no, no, no. No, you kept pegging my kid as the bad kid. She tried to put on me too that because there wasn't anything in writing, and this was oh, there was like a transition in principles and like leadership and everything.
None
So
of your problem.
they put it
You're
back
not an
on me, put it back on my
administrator.
kid. Oh, well, you didn't have anything in writing. You didn't let us know. Oh, yes, I did. Oh, yes, we had. My grandma was all worked up. She's like, yeah, I was sitting in there in the meeting. My husband, no, my whole family knew this
Even if
whole,
you didn't know as the principal, the teacher did.
right.
So
And
try
so
again.
if there should be things written down, right? I'm sorry, I'm not in your classroom writing this. So it was put on me that I should have sat down the first day and explained the whole thing to this new teacher. And I'm
No.
like, okay, yeah, I get that to a little bit, but no, this is a small classes. The teacher before should have said something. Right? It's ridiculous. So, yeah, I just took them both and we're like, we're done. And I was so petty too. There's like a whole laundry list of things that, I mean, you pay buku dollars and then you have to provide all their supplies for the year. So it's like, and I want my supplies back. And they were being petty by giving me like a half a box of tissue, like used markers. I was like, what,
I don't
what
care,
about,
boo. I don't
but
care.
some of that material still like helped me. And then my sweet grandma stepped up to the plate again and she's like, whatever you need. So what are you guys gonna do now with schooling? And in the back of my mind, and I had already been talking to one of my friends who was an independent study teacher, and she had been pushing the homeschooling like full time for the longest time. So it was like an independent study slash homeschooling where she was described it to me where it would be so beneficial to my kiddos because they can pick the curriculum.
The way
Uh,
the sunlight just caught your hand, it was like,
oh,
oh,
yes, like
sorry.
literally
It was funny.
like my epiphany, right?
Oh.
So, oh, I'll back up just a little bit too. So, when the day that I pulled the kids, My daughter, you should have just seen her face. She was sitting in the front seat with me. Like I had not seen her that happy in like the longest.
Oh man, that
And then she was
hurt.
able to kind of like tell me, like as the months went on, she was able to tell me things about the the school that
Oh,
she
Andrea, you're breaking me down now.
she kind of held in, and she would get in trouble for trying to protect her brother.
Oh, that poor baby.
And then she would tell me about the bullying that she endured
Oh my
and
God.
the stuff that those kiddos went through. They just needed time to like decompress from like school just took so much out of them. Like you're gonna have to bleep that. Uh,
Beep.
yeah,
That was
there's a
just a
couple
little
times.
marker for me so I could.
Yeah, like oh my
Oh.
gosh, I'm all in my emotions, and so he would come home too as up until later in elementary and have to take a nap because it would just take so much out of him just to hold it all together and be the good kid that they expected him to be. Um, and so I just fully leaned into this homeschooling, and they kind of like their masks were able to finally like come off, and they were able to be the kids that I knew like deep inside they were able to be the students that I knew that they could be, and the people like their personalities where they're not in a constant state of judgment were able to come out, and I was able to like foster so many great things about these kiddos that the world wanted to like oppress, and I was able to answer so many of their questions. They were just so curious about so many things in this world, and I had the time finally to explain things to them. We were able I mean, homeschooling is such a humbling experience because I was like, what do I do? Like I'm so thankful for my friend because she can the first year, I kind of had to do things on my own and pay for my curriculum because the school had already started, and we didn't want to start something new when they were trying to like decompress from everything that was happening. Um, like COVID was still going, it was
I
just
don't
a
know
lot
how
that
parents
time.
got through COVID. My son was, you know, very young, and I was pregnant with our daughter, and it was it was kind of a great time to be pregnant because I could just hide at home and it didn't matter.
Right.
I don't know how people got through that time. I mean, I still, obviously, still today, even hearing tales of how people got through with children in school. And I don't know how anybody got through that. Don't I?
That's a whole like yeah, we'd like to hear from people like having kiddos with autism because I'm sure in some aspects we like really did thrive, and then others it was like we really did miss like the connections with family and friends and being able to go out and do that was just it was a lot. Yeah.
We had two really I mean, I've been fortunate in life to have some really great neighbors, thankfully. There's only like an occasion where I've had an awful um neighbor, but that's really a funny story, but I can't tell it today. And we would go sit out in the driveway and it was like, okay, come out at 5 o'clock and just say hi. And that's how that was they're really great people, but and we had this other lady who lived on the other side of us, and she unfortunately has passed away, but that lady was her name was Tina. She was off the hook. She
Oh,
reminded me of my mom. Like she was just like off the chain. In fact, uh, so many things to talk about that woman. She's so funny, but God rest her little soul. She was a cool lady, but without her, her sister had been in the army, and she started hand sewing masks when there was the mask shortage. And
Oh,
my husband's job actually contracted her sister to produce about 100 of those masks. And so he was able to, get some money to the system, through the contracting it out or whatever. So it was very fortunate that we knew this person. And so, we really bonded, before then, but even after then, like COVID did a lot for people. It took a lot. It took a whole lot away from people, but it gave back in some fundamental ways that I guess we would have never experienced had it not happened.
right.
I don't know how people made it through COVID.
But one positive during that time with the schooling, the kiddos, they transitioned to doing like the online school, even with being in the private school. They were given the Chromebooks, and the teachers would record lessons, or they would have like live classes. So I realized that my daughter, and she was like, wow, I really am doing so much better in math and things like that, because she could have like a personal chat with her teacher, and then they were kind of getting like tutoring. And she's like, oh wow. And that's when she really became super independent with her learning. And then she was able to read and research things on her own. So I had the we kind of had that baseline of, oh wow, we really can explore different topics and whatnot and research things on our own. So we really could do this homeschooling thing. And that's when, oh, their education really just like flourished and took off. And my daughter was able, she really became that independent learner. Uh, so then going into this new school year with having the independent study teachers and whatnot, we were able to meet. We meet once a month. Hold on, we ah, allergies.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. The air
Yeah.
quality is not great here right now.
No.
Which is the season. We'll have a whole summer of bad air quality, unfortunately.
Right. I know. I do the Zyrtec, the whole bit, and nothing. Uh, so we were able to like, yeah, tailor their education to what their levels were. So my daughter was able to be like in honors classes, advanced placement. Uh, and then my son, that's when this teacher friend helped me to start the 504 process again. But that kind of that didn't work out because I knew he needed more than just the accommodations that the 504 plan was giving. So I just took it upon myself. Uh, that's one thing with this school, like to get the extra tutoring and the push in, pull out, extra help, extensions, all those things with the schoolwork. He needed to have an official diagnosis. So on top, I think that was the hardest part of him being a preteen, is doing all these tests on top of having to do transition into this, new school, going from me like working on him with him like one on one with, and then him trying to transition to like a online school setting. But it really, this has still been like the best option for him, because once we did go through all the, it felt like trauma and drama just to get these tests. Poor kid. And we had the sweetest like evaluator. She really did. She understood. And, she would see my stress. And she's like, it's okay. She would like have calming music. And she's like, it's fine. If he only can do one of these tests, it's great. And then she'd have like a snack, this plethora of snacks if he needed to have his earphones on, if he needed to take there's like was stairs in her office, he'd go up and down the stairs, a 5 minute break. So the process that would have, maybe taken if they were smaller, right? It probably would have only taken maybe a month. This took like 3 months
Really?
because he would just, we'd have to like take breaks because it was just so much for him to handle. Uh, so at first she thought too, like, let me just meet him. And because he can make the eye contact, right? Because he's asking how her day was, how she is. But I taught him all that
Right. He's an actor and he's acting it out. Yeah.
because he sees
This is
that's
how,
kind of what you're
right.
supposed to do, socially acceptable. So she did. She's like, I don't know. I don't. At first, I was like, why are you even here in my office? He seems
Come to my
perfectly
house.
normal.
I had a complete opposite. Not only was my son diagnosed when he was young, but they had booked out like a 3 hour time, and my husband ended up taking our son, and because our daughter was so small at that time, and he called me like 25 minutes later. He's like, "We're done," and I was like, "Are you still in the office?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Can I speak to the doctor?" Yeah.
Right.
And I said, "Look, I know you can't tell me anything right now because you have to do your report. Um, you know, why did why, why was it so quick?" And he goes, "I got everything I needed." And I said, "Okay." Um, you know, basically like he's like, "Yeah, don't worry about it. It's fine." Like you're like, "Yeah." And then I get the report and he's a level 3. And I was like, okay, well, apparently they do I think next year or after he turns 7 that he may be reevaluated. So that's a process I'll be going through. And I kind of have the same fears as you're talking about, like the masking and the things of like, okay, well, he's going to act out and he's going to pretend that he can speak with you. He can do the things, but if you independently had him, give him A, B, and C to do, he can't. You know, he, I don't want to put my child out there and this be public and people talk about it. And I say this with all the love. If my son or daughter ever watch this, like with all the love in my heart and soul and the protection of me, that I would never put you out on Front Street like that. But he needs help getting dressed. Even when we try to encourage him to be independent, he will break down. I cannot. I need help. He can communicate that to you, but then there's times where he'll communicate different things to you that it's an echolalia. There was a time where we were on a family trip and we were at like a store or something and he was having a moment and I bent over and I said to him, just quietly, like, we don't act like that in public. And that's all I said to him. 2 years later, this child still, we don't act like that in public. He will just, that is that particular day in conversation. And that is something that he will just repeat.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you just casually heard him say it, you would be like, oh, well, good for him. He's so well behaved. It's not about behavior, it's about his function and what he equivalates to saying, okay, it's time to behave. Or, sometimes he just says it. It
Mm.
doesn't, and then there's no context. He can tell you things, and there's times where, like, I remember a teacher asking us, "Oh, your son told us about your cat," and I'm like, "We don't have a cat. My husband's terribly allergic. We do not own a cat. I actually wish we did. I love cats.
Mhm.
And at that time, our dogs were dead, and we didn't have the dog Luna that we have now. I don't care if I say her name, Luna puppy. And it was like I don't know where he came up with this cat story because we don't have one, and he's never even been around a cat, so I don't know where that came from. He may tell you a whole huge tale, and it's not true. It's not accurate. It's not
Mhm.
that he's trying to be deceptive. That's what he believes.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, a hilarious message from my husband just popped up. Apparently, he's out of stick butter. Thought I'd throw that in there. I tell him often, I was like, I wish I had a wife like me.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be
Don't
married
we
to you in
all?
a minute, baby.
Yes. Yeah, let me just add that to my list of what I need to do.
I just use it as an excuse to like be like, well, now I need to go to Sam's Club and you can pick up the kids from school.
Yeah, there you are.
Hey, make that opportunity for self-care, even if it's driving to the store by yourself.
Truly, truly. And that's, hey, as an autism mama, that sometimes we just need those, you know, 30-minute to an hour breaks, right? And
Yeah.
just kind of decompress and just, yeah,
Oh,
have
my
time to think.
Andrea, I love you. You're a gem. I don't know what else to say, but I mean, for the sake of these episodes, I'm going to break out into two. For full disclosure, that you are going on a family trip, and so I'm trying to get a couple in the can, and I'd love to have my friend Sabrina on. She has a lovely daughter who is with Down syndrome, and she has a lot of, things to talk about, and she'd also gone through a divorce, and so there are a lot of aspects of different friends that Andrea and I have, but Andrea is my number one, publicly to state that this is a Jen and Andrea production. And sometimes Andrea may have a friend that she wants to speak with, and I have, mutuals. And so there may be a time or occasion where there are different people here, and that's okay. That's our community. That's how other people have other voices and things and stories that they have a need to be heard, and I want to hear it. I've always loved hearing people's stories. That's been something in my life that when I was even young, I remember waiting for buses and there'd be old ladies there and they would just talk to and but I always enjoyed it. I love hearing people's life stories. So, you know, and hopefully as we gain community and people would love to share, we would love to talk about your story and dissect it, and how did you get through this situation, or can we give advice to you? Have we gone through it? I don't want to see anybody struggle,
And
especially
fall
not
through the
with this.
cracks, right?
And it's so easy to fall through the cracks. And you have to become so hardcore about, dealing with administrators and dealing with even family members. Like, hey, this is my child. This is how they operate. And I don't need you telling me, hey, you should do this or that. Great, thanks so much. Do you have a kid with special
Yeah.
needs? I mean, I'll
Hold
take
on.
your advice, but if you have a neurotypical child, or, you know, y- great. I'll take your advice, but if you're starting to say, well, you need to do this or that. No, I don't. I know what my kid needs. My husband and I have this conversation frequently. There's times where we'll have conversations with other relatives, and it's almost like we have to make excuses for behavior. It's like I'm not excusing any behavior anymore. They're fully aware this child is autistic, and this is part of his charm. And if you don't like it, then
Yeah.
whatever. I
I've
don't.
literally printed things out to hand to people that have been in my circle to educate them because they
Really?
act like they know what it is. But I was like, I think you need to read because
Andrea, you need to send me this file. I'm like, wait a minute.
there's I'll have to come up with something
Girl,
that
we
was
should make
similar.
this a little like a notebook mark. Like, here you go. If you want to modify this for your own use.
Right, truly.
That's up my alley. Like, hey, I don't have time to explain this to you ad nauseum, but if you need a little PDF file, here's how to operate.
Because I feel like we as mamas are like a constant, like we're like a little dictionary, like walking around because pe it is, we're constantly educate, we're an educator without even knowing that we're educators.
Not only educating, but protecting and
That
being
too.
and absorbing that, you know, uh, misunderstanding and trying to convey to somebody else, like, no, this is how it's going, but also to protect our child from feeling that stigma and also to, you know, just be an advocate all the time, even when you go to a grocery store. I can't tell you how many times I've had, lovely people, they'll stop to talk to my children, but then they make some comment about a behavior, and I'm like, or my favorite is like the rando old lady Karen, God love them, but there they are. We were at a community garden here, and there's like a children's museum attached to it, and were inside, and there was this little like air tubing, and you would put like a little silk scarf and it'd pop out. Well, my children were playing with this, and this lady, she was clearly a grandmother. She was older, and this is probably the only reason I didn't just like rip this lady's face off, because she literally physically touched my son and said something to the effect of like, "Oh, it's not your turn anymore." And I said, "Ma'am, he is autistic. He just does not understand. I will handle it. I'll speak with him. Like, I'm happy to give this other child a turn. However, there's like four different openings of this vacuum portal. It wasn't just like this particular spice, sorry for the 3D.
Hey, I
Sorry for
talk
my
with my
hands
hands
coming
too.
at you. Um, it just, there's times where people just take it upon themselves to try to discipline your child in public. It's like, this isn't the old days. You can
Oh,
talk to
yeah.
me. I'm the adult. I'll handle it. I
Oh,
just, ooh,
yeah,
ooh,
that's a
there's
whole another thing that we can talk about with the generations and the different parenting styles
boomers.
and
I don't want to hear about it because you guys just sent us outside to play. You had all kinds of hours of free time. You just sent everybody out to terrorize the community. We have to
make
actually
sure you're
watch our
home
kids
before the
go.
lights come
Yeah,
on,
with the
right?
street light, oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many times I heard about it. When the street lights come on, I don't care if it's noon, be home. Okay.
There you go.
But you
Yeah,
didn't hear from me otherwise.
very, very true. It's a big difference.
Well, I thank you again for another illuminating conversation, and I enjoy these immensely. And so yeah, and I will work on breaking these up, and I'll probably, delay the uploading. So by the time you get back, things should be back to normal. And because I know like even the week beforehand is a whole, yeah, that's a stressful
So,
event to, go out of town, and my husband's going to be traveling as well this week. So we have a lot going on here as well, and this will give me a little bit of time to try to perfect my editing. I'm so sorry. As people make channels and learn what they're doing and grow, I appreciate people's patience, and I'm just appreciative for the platform to talk about this. I've held this in for years, and my children are young. I can only imagine, you know, you as a mother of teenagers and mothers who have adult children. It's like, please, feel free to share and give.